I'll have here a piece by C. Jinarajadasa from 1947 in which he proclaims his support for the newly forming United Nations and his hopes for the future. Now, there's a little bit of background to this. Theosophical leaders of the interwar years, Annie Besant, Jinarajadasa and George Arundel, were very supportive of the League of Nations. Now, Arundel and Jinarajadasa unfortunately lived long enough to see the League of Nations fail with the Second World War, and Jinarajadasa mentions this in this piece here and gives what he sees as the reasons for that. Jinarajadasa was the only one of the three who lived long enough to see the United Nations form. Anyway, this piece is Jinarajadasa's presidential address. He was at the time, this is given on Christmas Day 1947, he was at the time international president of the Adyar-based Theosophical Society, and he gives his reasons for the what this is the reasons for the failure of the League of Nations and his hopes for the future. The Cold War had already begun by this time, and he does touch on that, and he links the formation of a nucleus of universal brotherhood with the need for world peace. Anyway, here it is. We Theosophists are aiming to build a nucleus of universal brotherhood, but all our efforts will be in vain if the world cannot be guaranteed a stable peace for several generations. We believed that peace had begun with the League of Nations in 1920, but it was obvious that could not be so, since one of the most powerful nations, the United States of America, refused to join the League of Nations, though sympathetic to its working, and since all the member nations of the League refused to enforce by military, naval and air forces any sanctions which the League might decree against an aggressor. The inevitable result of the weakness of the League and the self-centred politics of the big powers was the Second World War. At last, after suffering and destruction as never before in the history of mankind, the United Nations organisation is born. This time, there is a fairer future before the world. I, for one, believe in the United Nations. I believe at last the danger to the nucleus for universal brotherhood is averted. I'm often asked, won't there be another war? I follow closely the doings of the United Nations. I note Russia's continual no to almost everything, yet I do not believe Russia wants war. I am utterly certain the United States does not. Nobody dreams of such a thing in Britain. If I have, at the beginning of my presidential address, spoken on this topic, it is because it is the one world topic in which we are all involved. On its solution depends, in a large measure, just now the destiny of the Theosophical Society. I would plead with you, whether you believe in the United Nations or not, to follow its growth. Do not be sceptical of it as of no consequence. Okay, and that's from Jinarajadasa's presidential address in 1947. Jinarajadasa, a believer in universal brotherhood and a visionary.